Hi guys, you're welcome to my channel. So today we are going to be doing something different from what we have been doing before. And that's that we are going to be designing a movie poster together in today's class. However, before we go into it, it's something normal for you to do as a beginner or intermediate designer. That is to think that to design a movie poster, you have to be good at photo manipulation. Photo manipulation is an essential skill for you to design a good movie poster. However, it's not compulsory for some certain poster, just like this one that wants to design together in today's class. So this particular poster, what it requires are the essentials for any movie posters. Either the movie poster require you to use photo manipulation or not. All these things are crucial. Number one is to get a good image. When I say good image, I mean a good photograph that is going to tell the story that you intend to tell with the poster. And for you to do that, is that you're a good photographer by yourself or you work with a good photographer. Just like I work with what? Mox Imagery. So I'm telling you, I'm also not a photographer, but I work with photographers. So you can check them on Instagram. So the next thing is that if you don't work with a photographer and you're not a photographer, you can as well know how to search for good image using those special sites like Enphato, Freepik, and the list goes on. So once you get a good image that can what tell the story that you intend to tell, the next thing is for you to be good at color grading. So if you are good at color grading, it helps you to set the feel that you want them to feel whenever they see the movie poster that you create. So the next thing, which is the most important thing, is to what? Know how to choose a typography that goes in line with the feel that you create for that particular poster. If you can do these three things very well, then you'll come up with a successful and good looking storytelling posters. So let's see how we actually come up with this in few minutes. So let's go. Now, once you're about to create your movie poster, the very first thing you need to do is for you to search for image. So once you get your image, create a folder, and that folder is where you're going to keep everything that you want to use for this project. So for example, this is the image that we are going to be using for this project. I got this image on Enphato, and also every other necessary thing, just like the Netflix logo. I have everything here. And if you want to follow with this particular tutorial, you can check the description part of this video for you to download all these assets. Move down to Photoshop and then create a new project. Because I want to use this poster on Instagram, so I'm going to create Instagram portrait size, which is what? 1080 by 1350. So I'll label this movie poster. Movie poster. Okay, so that's the title for this particular document. Now, when you're creating a poster, one of the things you need to put at the back of your mind is that you need a very large number of quality. And for you to be able to what? To get a very large number of quality, one of the things that you need to do is for you to create a document size that is going to have large numbers of what? Pixels, just like the one I'm about to do now. So you can see that this is the Instagram document size, which is 1080 by 1350. So I'm going to multiply this by 2. So click on Shift and then star, then multiply it by 2. Also do the same thing with this as well. So if you have this now, make sure your resolution is on 300 and then click on Create. So once you have this, the next thing you want to do now is to bring in your image. Now, if you are using Photoshop for the first time, there are a couple of ways in which you can bring in image into your document. However, with this, I'm just going to go into the folder and drag this particular image into my Photoshop. So once I'm able to do this, I'm going to scale it up so that it's going to fill the canvas. Now, if you look at it now, this image is touching the very top here. So I don't want that to happen. I'm going to take it down a bit like this. So I haven't done this. I'm okay with the image now. So the very first thing I want to do now is to treat this image in a way that is going to give me a very good looking, other than how flat it's looking now. So how do I do that? What I'm going to do is that I'm going to create what? uh, frequency separation for this particular image. So click on Ctrl J on your keyboard, and if you are using Mac, you can what, click on Command J. So I'm going to label this very first one low frequency, and I'm going to label this one high frequency, high frequency. So the next thing is to convert these things to a raster. So convert this to raster layer, also convert this one to raster layer. All right, so you can see the difference between a raster layer and the smart layer is that if you look at the smart layer, this has something like SIM card, like a folder sign here. But if you look at what was it called, a raster layer, there is nothing of such there. So these two like this, group them together, Ctrl G to group. So call this image. So let's open this now and let's start working on it. So for the very first one here, which is this low frequency, you come to filter and go to your what? Blur, and go to Gaussian blur. So with this now, you want to reduce the blur to something like, let's say maybe 9 pixels. I think that will be fine. So I would have explained a lot to you here if, for example, we have this image facing us. However, how do I get that I'm supposed to set this into 9 is because I'm looking at the texture of this bag. So immediately I'm not seeing this texture again, I stop there, and that's what? That's 9. So I haven't done this. I will now click on this now. So click on this high frequency layer here and go to your image, then go to image and go to apply image. So when you get to apply image, now look at something. This image here, this RGB, look at the title of this particular document, and down you find this RGB/8. What this means is that this image is 8 bits. So if the image is 8 bits, just like we have here, you come down to layer and click on low frequency, because the layer that is under this particular layer that we are working on now is the low frequency, which is the layer that we want to subtract from the layer at the top. I'm going to do more explanation on this in our subsequent video so that you get to understand how this actually works. But for now, just do as I do. So come down to blending mode and change this to what? Subtract, and make sure that your offset is 128 and your scale is 2. I repeat, next time or in the next video, I can create a special video explaining all of this value and units so that you understand them perfectly. But for now, do as I do. So let's click on OK. Now go to your blending mode here and change this towards change this to linear light. So immediately we have this now. What do I want to do by doing all of this? I want to just do some little retouch on this particular image. So if you look at this guy's picture here, you get to see that the cloth is kind of too squeezed, especially at the back here. So let's iron the cloth and then do some little retouch on this lady's hand. And once we are done with that, then we are good to go with the image. So for me to do that as fast as possible, I'll just come down here and pick my lasso tool. So once I pick my lasso tool, make sure that your cap lock is off. So select this back here like this. So once I select it like this, you go up like this, select those places that are not looking cool, and go to filter, go to blur, and go to Gaussian blur. Then remember, we use 9 the other time, isn't it? So multiply it by 3. That will give you 27. Add 2 to it, that's 29. So set the radius to 29 and click on OK. So if you look at that, you can see that the back is what is very, very smooth. Look at the before and after. This was the before, can you see? And this is what the after. So once you're able to do this now, let's try to do the same thing to this back. But I want you to try as much as possible. Leave this line here, otherwise it's not going to look real anymore. So we can select this now. So if I select this, I'll just right click. Once I right click, I'm going to do what? Apply Gaussian blur to this, and we have been able to what? To iron the back as well. So you do the same thing with that of this lady also. So for this hand here, you can do what? Select this. and right click and click on Gaussian blur so that the hand there is going to be what? Smooth. So you could do the same thing with this place, but you have to be careful when you are doing this. So do the same thing. So you can see we have a very smooth hand right now. So you can do the same thing here. All right. So if we have this now, we just click on Gaussian blur and we can deselect. So this is now really cool. I think there was a mistake there. So let me take it again and do this. All right. So once you are done treating this particular image, just like I've done right now, the next thing that you want to do now is for you to set your scene. Now, we are done with editing the image. The next thing we want to do, just like I said now, is that we want to set the scene for this particular poster. Now, if you look at these things here, you get to see that because this particular guy is standing here, their shadow is in one way or the other casted around this area and as well this area. However, it's not that pronounced. Why? Because this image is not something programmed to the point where we can just pick it and drop it for use. So there's still need for us to do some little things there. And for us to do this, we just go at the top of this and come to your adjustment layer here. This thing that looks like a circle. Click on it and come down to curve. So on this curve adjustment layer, click at the center here and take it down so that you can have everything a bit darker like this. So for you to create it, so you can see everywhere is very dark now. To make it a bit lighter, take this one down a bit. Can you see now? So that it's going to have a seamless kind of darkness. So you don't want it to be too dark such that it's not going to look real. So once you are done with this, the next thing you want to do now is to click on Ctrl G. So group this particular curve and just name this curve layer. All right. So what's the next thing to do? Click on this white box here, that is this layer mask here, and then select your brush. When you select the brush, make sure that the brush is the hardness of the brush is set to 100%. Then come to the center here and make sure that here is set to black. That is, the foreground color is set to black. So once you have that, just click at the very top part or the center of this particular mask, and you have this place pronounced back. So once you have that, the next thing it wants to do is to go into the property of this layer. So here we have what? Feather, and we have what? Density. Now increase the feather so that you can blur these edges. When you are increasing feather of this layer, it's look as if you are adding blur to it. Am I making sense now? So if you increase this now, you get to see that these ladies and these guys image here, they appear brighter and it looks seamless, while all these parts are kind of dark. Am I making sense now? So if you have that, you can see everything is smooth out, while this place is now dark and here is dark. Am I making sense now? So you can reduce the density. Density is like you are reducing opacity of this particular circle, but we don't want to reduce the opacity, so leave it at 100%. So when you are done with that, let's reduce the opacity of this layer, because this place is too dark. Likewise, this place is also too dark. Am I making sense now? So why I actually do this is to make sure that these guys are 100% in focus. Am I making sense now? So that they can be 100% in focus, so that all this side is not going to distract too much. So if we have that, just reduce the opacity a bit to something around 80 or so. I think this is fine. This look natural now. So look at the before, this is it, and after. You can see that there is now enough depth in this particular composition now. So once you are done with this, the next thing to do now is for us to bring in our type. So what's the title of this movie? The title of this movie poster is How Far Are You Willing to Go? Made of Honor. So let's pick our typography. So because the kind of feel that we are thinking to create for this particular poster should be a modern kind of feel, and at the same time it should be nostalgia in nature. So when you talk about modern feel, you want to talk about what? Sans serif typography. However, not all sans serif are what? Are made, or they craft in the same way. They still have different look. For that reason, you need to check different ones. And also, when you're talking about being nostalgic in nature, the kind of typography that he wants to use, they usually like what? Script or brush type of typography. So we're going to be combining that in this particular poster for us to do what? For us to be able to have the appropriate and nice looking poster. So let's get into that now. So I'm going to type here now, how far are you willing to go? Okay, so that's a question mark. Obviously, black is not looking good here. So let's change this to white. Remember, we don't use pure white, so I'll use FE, FE, FE. So if you look at this now, this is a script type of what? Typography. But using scripts to write this particular title here, it's not looking good. Or basically because it's all uppercase. Am I making sense now? So for this particular movie, we want it to look like a movie that is kind of serious. So for that reason, instead of us using a title case, we want to use uppercase throughout. And for us to be able to achieve that, all we just need to do is to keep our what? Is to change this particular typography since it's not looking good like this. So let's look for this. Let's try this. I think this does. Let's reduce the size of this before we can conclude that it actually does make sense. So yeah, I have actually used this before while creating the poster. So for that reason, there's nothing special about it. So let's put it on 0. So this is the typography used. You can as well copy the name and download it for use. So let me reduce the size of this a bit and then increase the tracking. So double click on this. Once you double click on this, it selects all. Then click on Alt and click on your your right hand arrow to increase the tracking. So we have this now, and I think this is cool. So what's next? The next thing to do now is to write the actual title, which is Maid of Honor. So if I want to use, I'm talking about scaling now. So when it comes to scaling and hierarchy, why am I not letting how far are you willing to go to be well scaled up? So I'm trying to avoid that because this is like a sentence. Do you understand? It's not something you can pronounce at a go. So maid of honor is something very short. So making that more pronounced is better than making how far you are willing to go more pronounced. Am I making sense now? So I'm going to what? Reduce the tracking of this one by clicking on property and set this one to what? 0. So once I do that, I'm going to type what? Maid of honor. So I have maid of honor here, and I'm going to increase the size of it so that it appear more pronounced compared to this. All right. So if you look at what I have here right now, how far are you willing to go, maid of honor? So if you look at this now, what's happening right here is that everything look what? Modern. But that nostalgic look or feel that we want to give into this poster, we are not getting it. For that reason, I might want to change the typography that I'm going to use to write my maid of honor to something like brush. So there are different type of brush typography that we have out there. So if you look at this typeface now, this is a brush, but this is not looking it's not looking bold enough. However, let's see what we can do with it. So because it's not looking bold enough, let's fix some certain thing that I think might be the reason why it's not looking bold enough. By what? Reducing the tracking. So if you reduce the tracking, you see what we have right here. So all right, so let's reduce it further to something like this. Okay, I think this is making some sense now. And then I can increase the size of this now to make it appear more bolder. All right, so if you look at this now, we have this. So I can group these two together and then Control T to adjust them upward. Why? Because I still want to add some things here. So if you look at the actual design here, so you get to see that we have, what's it called? We have the Maid of Honor, and we have a powerhouse strong project. So we need to include all of this into the design. So for that reason, we need to adjust this one upward. However, let's change this one to red. But for us to change this to red, there's need for us to take a look at another form of typeface. So, all right, so let's make this one, let's make it red. Okay, yeah, so it give more attention to that, but this red is too intense, so let's take it down a bit, and that's good. So the tracking of this one is not making sense, so let's reduce it a bit. Good. All right, so close this. Good. So we have this now, and I can increase the size a little bit more. All right, so if I have this now, I'm going to what, take these two together and group them and call it what, the title. So I have this to be my title now, and the next thing I'm going to do with the title is that I'll click on Control A and click on V. So I select my this selection tool, and I can centralize it. So now that it's centralized, but I'm not sure if how far you want to go is well centralized. So I'll click on the same thing. So perfect. So we have this now, and I'm going to increase the size of this a little bit more. Okay, because scaling is one of the most important things to pay attention to while designing. Okay, so I have all of this now, and the next thing I want to do now is to duplicate this. Click on Ctrl J, and then I can drag it down so that I can use this to write the a strong, a powerhouse, a powerhouse. So it has to be a all cap, a power, a powerhouse, a powerhouse strong project. All right, so I have this now, and I can take it up a bit right here. Good. So the next thing is for me to bring in the credit copies. So drag it in and place it here. So take this one down like this, reduce the size a bit. Okay, so we have this right here. Now, if you look at it, the color of this one is not that bright, but it's fine. Just double click on the side like this. When you double click on the side like this, it open up this panel, then click on color overlay, then set it to what? Set it to white, and make sure it's normal and 100% opacity. So we have this now, and our movie poster is coming together. Now, if you observe something right here, you get to see that the sequence here, so this was supposed to go up a bit, and let this one also come up a bit, so that we have a very good looking one. So take the whole of the title, adjust them down a bit like this. Okay, so we have this now. What's the next thing? So the next thing is for us to bring in our Netflix logo, and make sure we put it at the top here. Okay, so this icon I have here, there's need for me to remove the background. So for me to remove the background is quite easy. So I'll just come to my window, and come to contextual bar. I'll just remove the background. Okay, so once we are able to remove the background like that, the next thing we want to do now is to Ctrl T and scale it down. All right, so let's put it somewhere here. Okay, so once you have it there, so it shows that this movie is a Netflix movie. All right, so go down here and click on this one, also drag it in like this. So we'll do absolutely the same thing by removing what, the background, and we take it. Oh, this does not remove completely. Okay, so it's fine. We can pick our brush tool, and okay, so pick your brush tool. Let's set this towards a soft brush. and then clean this. So if this does not work, there's something else we can do because this might take much of our time. So I can just select the subject. I hope it selects the red only. Okay, fine. So what other thing can I do? If I target the range of the color, so that should help. Okay, image size, range mode. Can I get that right here? So date. Oh, well, okay, color range. So under select, so come here and click on this. So once I sample this like that, just what you can increase the fuzziness. Yeah, or let me reduce it a bit. Too much. So if I click on this now and then click on OK, so it has helped us to target that, though it doesn't target it well. So if I have this now, I can just come down to select and go to, let me deselect it and reselect so that I can increase the numbers of pixels that is going to pick. So color range, select this, good, all right. Okay, so click on, I don't want this to take all this. So do the same thing there. So just click on layer mask. So we have that now, and you can take this down like this and click on Ctrl T, scale it down, and then we have this here. All right. So click on Ctrl A and centralize it. Good. So now you can group this together and label it Netflix logo. Netflix logo. Good. So if you have this Netflix logo here, the next thing you want to do now is now you're done with the entire poster now. So you've applied your typography, you've what makes your image depth increase. The last thing you want to do now is to color grade so that you create and match the entire field and give out the appropriate field. So let's get into that. So what we want to do right now is for us to color grade. Click on Control Shift Alt E. So if you click on Control Shift Alt E, you create a stamp visible layer. Then you can now what convert to smart objects. Then go to filter and go to camera raw filter. So on this camera raw filter, we start by you can just click on these circles between before and after. So this is the same thing now. So whatever I'm changing now, I'm going to be seeing it now in this place, and I can compare it with what I have here. So let's go. So under the light, I think the exposure of the image is well taken care of. However, let's increase the contrast. Not so much like that, so just increase it a little. All right, I think this is fine. Then the highlight also, the highlight means the light part of this image. Am I making sense now? While the contrast simply means for you to work on the difference, to create enough difference between the highlight, the shadow, and the middle tone. So that's why I don't really increase it too much. So for the highlight, I'm talking about what the light part of the image. So let's increase that also. Let's decrease it because we have much light coming here and much light on this also, and that might not make it look real because of how dark these places are. So let's reduce the highlight a bit, not so much, just something like this is fine. So then the shadow is the dark part of the image. So all this dark part, not so dark, but any part of the image that is dark is called the shadow. So let's increase this to about, not so much. Are you getting it now? Because what we just want is to pop. So I think this is fine, or let's take it down a little bit. Okay, so this is fine also. I don't want this to be the same thing as that of, all right, so this is fine now. So what's the next thing? The black and the white. So let's pop up the black and reduce the white. So let's reduce the white to not something so much. I think this is fine. And let's take this one up a bit. So we reduce the black and the white. So I think this is too much. So this is fine. So you can see, look at this now and look at this. With just those little touch, you see that this image is popping up, and this, if you compare the two, you can see. All right. So let's go to the color. Now, when it comes to the color here, with the temperature, if you reduce the temperature too much, you are going to be increasing this blue. Am I making sense now? And if you increase what the temperature too much, this lady hair is it's not going to look natural any longer. So we want to balance between the two, because the hair is a bit darker. So we want the hair to also pop up. Am I making sense? And also their skin. So this is fine, not so much like that. Then the tint, there's no really point in increasing this, but you can just increase it a little bit. Do you get that now? So the vibrance. So vibrance and saturation. Vibrance is like, when you talk about vibrance and saturation, they are very, very similar. However, vibrance is like making everything equal. That is popping the whole of the color such that they are of equal level. While saturation is popping up a particular color, or all those colors is going to be popping them up simultaneously. Do you understand that now? So that's the difference between the two. So for vibrance now, let's just increase it a bit to something around this so that the color can pop up very well simultaneously. That is, make them level. Then this one now to not so much. We don't want this to be too much. So if you look at it, it's getting too much already. So I think this is fine now. Let me reduce the vibrance a bit. So if you look at it now, there is now a great difference between this and this. All right, so close this. Then the next thing to do now is to go to the effect. So on this effect now, we have texture. So let's increase the texture of this so that the image is not going to look flat. Am I making sense? But not so much like that, because we still want it to be what? Real. Then the clarity also increase it to something closer to the texture. Then you can leave this one. So, and leave this one as well. So let's go into the grain. The grain is like, you are adding noise to it. So let's just add just a little one. Then go to the curve. There's no point working on the curve. Color mixer. So on this color mixer, we really don't want to work on the red. However, we have hue, saturation, luminance. So for the hue, it's like the color that we want to improve on. So there's orange here, there's yellow here. So let's work on the orange and just tip it up a bit down, because it's already too shiny. So let's just take it down a bit like that. Then the yellow as well, uh, we can take the yellow down also, so that we want the color to get closer to the orange. So you can see now, watch something on this slider. This is the yellow here, and this is what? This is green. So if I decided to be increasing this, I'm moving closer to the green, and I don't want that. So it's the yellow that I want to what? That I want to increase. So I have to move closer to the yellow. Am I making sense now? So let's just leave it as something like this. Am I making sense? And for the orange, so just a little bit to pop it up. Then what's next? The next thing is what? Is the green. So let's us reduce the green a bit. So we'll be able to walk towards the the yellow part of it, and the aqua. So also let's take this one to something like this. It's fine. So watch again the purple and the magenta. So let's just leave this. Okay, let's work on the blue, because the guy is actually putting on blue. So let's just little one. We don't want it to be too much, because if you look at it, you get to see that this is sky blue. So if you are done with this, the next thing you want to go to is color grading. Oh, let's leave this one. Then details. So the sharpen, let's sharpen this one a bit more to something like 30 something. It's fine, so that the image is going to be sharp, and reduce the noise a bit. All right, so this is fine. Then color noise also, we can as well reduce that one also. All right. Okay, so I think this is fine right now. So if you look at the before and after, look at the before and look at the after. So just click on OK. So you can see what we have now. So we have a very good looking uh, finishing. So thank you so much for working with me to this particular moment in time, and you can see how good looking it is when we color grade it. So knowing how to color grade well is going to help you to become a better movie poster designer. And if you like this, do well to share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to this page. See you next time. Let's keep creating.